if God gives us the gift of wisdom, then we will have the ability to create strategy.
Yeah, so good.
That doesn't require us to bleed and to use every single ounce of force that we have to produce a result. Like results can be produced much easier with leverage than manpower.
When you put things in their rightful place, you're actually telling God, hey, God, you can bless me now. Because she was saying that if he blesses you and things are so out of whack and out of order, it's like he's rewarding a system that he never put in place.
If we're saying, I don't have enough faith in the soil that you've given us, that if I just plant the seed, I will give it time. In me resting, that gives the laws and the things that you set in place time to work.
That's good.
It's like saying, I don't trust your process. Yeah. I don't trust your creation. That's what you're saying. I don't trust God's creation.
The world tells you need to work, you need to grind, you need to run yourself into the ground. But God is like, no, that's not true. Sharpen your axe. Yeah. I'll give you the strategy so that you can see so much more fruit with less effort.
What's up, everybody? It is Elijah here with my beautiful wife, Avrielle.
Avrielle Muse.
Muse.
Are you annoying? No.
Those are the initials, y'all. I'll let y'all guess what her middle names are. She's over here acting like she's Hispanic or something with three middle names. But anyway.
How you know Hispanic people have three middle names?
That's like well-known fact.
Elijah, guys.
That's a well-known fact.
My husband is he's ignorant. Okay, he be making stuff up.
I grew up in California.
Okay, babe.
Some of my best friends were Hispanic.
If you're Hispanic and you watch this, let me know in the comments below if you had two middle names.
Yo,
okay?
9 out of 10. They probably had two. Two actually is more common than three middle names. Two, but anyway, that's besides the point. We're back with another episode, y'all. We appreciate you for
being patient,
for waiting, for being patient. The last few episodes that we dropped did really good, so I appreciate y'all for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for sending it to your auntie, your uncle, your grandmama, your nephews, all them people. Right? Today, what are we talking about?
Today, we're going to be talking about not striving and honestly just working from a place of rest. This idea actually came to Elijah, but it came from a place of where we currently feel we are compared to where we were earlier this year. Yeah. And we were definitely striving this year. We got to a point where we both felt...
Last couple years.
Yeah. I feel like this year we both hit burnout pretty bad. You know, this is the first year that I can remember just laying in bed and feeling so weary and drained and like I had nothing left to give because of work. And I think you felt similarly. I mean, I wouldn't say you were laying in bed, but...
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been this burnt out.
Yeah.
Like, I would say since we've been married, this is probably the most extreme that it's been. Like, for me, I would even say a couple months ago, like, I was borderline depressed.
Yeah,
like,
same.
It was burnout was partnered with, like, a lot of negative emotions.
Yeah.
Like just feeling defeated, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, feeling like all of the things and all of the actions and all of the energy that we were putting in did not equate to the results that we should have seen.
Yes.
So and then it's just like, man, okay, I'm giving all this, I'm giving, and I'm not receiving what I expected. And so that's causing unmet expectations, which is like I think just a, what do you call it? Kind of a domino effect.
Yeah, and it's very defeating to be in that place. I feel like it's going to be good to talk about as well because of the economy we're in. I know a lot of people are like dealing with inflation and the rise in grocery prices, crazy high mortgages. Our mortgages ridiculous. Through the roof, you know, and that's because of higher interest rates and just the economy we're in. It's actually insane. And so many people are feeling the pressure and feeling like their backs are against the wall. And that is very much how we felt this year, which is why we were truly running ourselves into the ground to the point where we were just honestly striving.
Granted, though, I will give a caveat. I think we've always been hardworking people.
Yeah.
And I think we've always had really big goals. So that means that we probably do like put more time in when it comes to work and careers than the average individual. But I will also say, I think life responsibilities this year have felt just as heavy as the other responsibilities, I think, which added to the overall.
Yeah.
Because, we got 2 kids now and just there are so many things going on with owning a home and having different careers and owning businesses and all of those things. I think it
Coordinating
all, yeah, it
schedules.
all compiled together. Like our son is kind of like, he's getting to the age now where he's starting sports and
Yeah.
all the things. So like life as well. It almost felt like we were striving, not just in careers,
But in
but
life,
in life, and not even
yeah.
trying to.
Not even trying. Like
Yeah.
just daily responsibilities felt like a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and just having 2 kids. I don't know if you guys know, but a toddler, you're going through laundry like it's crazy. It's ridiculous. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
The kitchen just was permanently dirty, and I'm a clean freak. Elijah thinks that I'm just.
Kitchen wasn't no permanently dirty. You
Elijah
tripping.
thinks. Elijah thinks that I'm
Y'all,
extreme.
she considers a coffee mug in the sink permanently dirty.
Listen, if you're raised in a Jamaican household, then you feel my pain. That is that Jamaican trauma, okay? Because truly, you can't have nothing in that sink, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like as a Jamaican, we just have super high standards for cleanliness to begin with, too. So Elijah thinks
On the inside of the house.
I be going crazy. Yeah, I don't do anything on the outside of the house. That's all Elijah. Yeah. But that's besides the point. So this is why we wanted to talk about not striving and actually working from a place of rest. So while Elijah and I were talking about this and just brainstorming our conversation, I started to think about the verse in Psalms 127, and it says, Psalms 127 verse 1, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep. I feel like this year was a year that I feel like I got probably some of the least amount of rest, because I was going to bed so late because I was working, and I was working from a place of anxiety and fear and worry. You know, it wasn't from a place of rest. I wasn't rested. And that was a big part of the reason why I felt so burned out. I was just extremely exhausted all the time and extremely weary. And clearly in scripture, that's just not the way it's meant to be. We're actually meant to work from a place of rest. And while we were talking about that, Elijah touched on something that I thought was so good. Do you want to talk about it, babe?
Yeah. From literally the very first book, the very first chapter of the Bible, the creation story. And this is, I give credit to my pastor, Pastor Tim. He had brought this up in a meeting, and we were talking about how in the beginning, literally, God created man on the 6th day, right? God created Adam on the 6th day, and he was created. He told him, hey, you're going to have dominion over the earth. You're going to name the animals, all of these things. But before like Adam was actually commanded to do any of this, he was created on the 6th day. And then like on the 7th day, that was a day of rest.
Yeah.
So like man was created, right? And we were eventually going to be given responsibilities, and we were eventually going to have to do all of these things. But the first thing that man did, not that he was commanded to, but just the first thing that happened, the way that God planned it strategically, was he created us, and then Adam rested on the 7th day.
Which is so crazy to me because I didn't even notice that. Like I knew that on the 6th day, man was created, but I didn't realize just the way things were ordered. And the fact that man was created on the 6th day, and before he even did anything, the next day just happened to be a day of rest. Then from that place, he was then charged to go do all of the things that he was supposed to do. And that's just so powerful to me, because it's like, no, actually, that's the place you should be working from. You should be working from a place of rest, not from a place of being depleted and feeling exhausted and weary.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so Elijah brought up another piece that I thought was really good as well when it came to nighttime and even how that is structured.
Yeah, so kind of backtracking, even before we get to day 6, when Adam was created, when man was created, going back to day 1, it's like every single day that God created something, that he did something, right? He created, or he created light, he created darkness, he formed the earth, all of those things, right? And then when that day was completed, scripture says there was evening and there was day.
So good.
Right? So here, let me read it specifically. And there was evening and there was morning the 2nd day. Let's see, when it says the 3rd day, same thing, I think. And there was evening and there was morning, and that was the 3rd day. Right? So this tells us that, hey, the nighttime was first. Actually, like our day, what we consider a full 24 hours, begins with night. Then you have day, and then it's completed, right? Which tells me, all right, if evening comes first, I think like, all right, midnight is evening. That's when our day officially starts. Like that's another sign that we start from a place of rest, because midnight is when the day starts, right?
But you should
or
be
the
in bed.
evening.
You
The
should be
evening is when it
sleeping.
starts. Yeah, but if if you're living a healthy lifestyle, you should be asleep at that time, right?
Yeah.
And so you're resting, and then 7 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever time you get up, 6 a.m., you start working. You start doing the things. You start toiling, and then even evening is how we end the day as well, right? So it's like we start from a place of rest, we work, and then we end from a place of
Place of
rest,
rest. So good.
right? And so I think when you don't operate from a place of rest and you operate from a place of striving and feeling the need to use every single minute, every single second out of every single hour to be productive and get something done, you end up burning out because like we're all running off of batteries.
Yeah.
We're all like pouring out from a cup, right? And so I think that if our batteries don't ever have a time to recharge, then we're just going to be, we're going to be depleted.
Absolutely. I think another important piece to remember is that Psalms 127 verse 1 actually says, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. I think where a lot of us go wrong is God has called us to start a work and we actually end up starting it and we're faithful with it. But then we feel like we need to be the ones to finish it. We need to be the ones to see it through. And we end up kicking God out of the process when we start striving for this dream and going after this ambition and making it so much more than God ever said it needed to be. And I feel like that can be really dangerous because the truth is, if God has started a work in you, he is the one that will see it through to completion. That's scripture. But so many times we feel like we need to be the ones to see it through to completion. And we're human. We're too finite for that. We're too limited for that. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with me this year. It's like, no, I know that he called me to start these things. I know he's called me to be faithful to these things, but I didn't have a process in place that actually accounted for the fact that I'm human. And a huge thing that God has built into the fabric of creation is rest. And when we just kick that out of the process, I actually feel like we're telling God we don't need it. And we do.
And we don't trust your process.
And we don't trust his process. Yeah.
If we're saying, I don't have enough faith in the soil that you've given us, that if I just plant the seed, I will give it time. In me resting, that gives the laws and the things that you set in place time to work.
That's good.
It's like saying, I don't trust your process. I don't trust your creation. That's what you're saying. I don't trust God's creation.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yeah, it's just...
It's insane.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. I love that you touched on that because resting is actually an act of faith.
Yeah.
A lot of times we feel like our hands need to remain on something for it to grow, for it to bear fruit.
Yeah.
And that's just not correct. Pulling back and resting sometimes tells God, I've done all I can do. So God, I'm actually trusting that you can do the rest.
All right.
And
that makes it seem like a partnership also. Because I think something I want to clarify about what you just said is like when you say that if God started something, it's not up to us to finish it. I will say yes and no. Like if God started something or gave us direction to start something, it's a partnership.
Right.
And so we should be working with him and following his direction to complete things. So I think like both are needed.
Well,
God's direction is needed and our effort is needed. The caveat being that every single thing in his plan is not going to be under our control.
Yeah.
Like we follow through with the steps that he's given us or with the vision that he's given us, or whether it be like we've come up with the strategy, he gives the vision, we come up with the strategy, whatever it is, like follow the steps. But in that also be okay with resting and taking breaks.
Yeah. When I was saying that, I was speaking from like a very metaphorical place. Like I know that at the end of the day, our effort is required. And even if we're seeing something through to completion, I mean, in the sense of the way God is saying it, like he starts the work, he sees it through to completion. And we're the ones that, we're in partnership with him, but we have to be okay to surrender that it's his ultimate vision to begin with.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we take that vision back from God and we're like, no, it's mine to begin with. And we take it and we run with it. But you're right. It does have to be a partnership. It's this thing where it's like, no, I trust that this is yours. I have faith that it's yours so much that I will rest when I need to and I will pull back. I think it's really important as well to challenge those beliefs that we might have Because for me, I think a big part of it this year was feeling like, no, if I don't work, then I won't see fruit. If I don't strive, then I won't see fruit. And I really feel like we need to challenge that, because there's so many people that don't run themselves into the ground and they're extremely successful. They have a life where they honor the Sabbath, they're resting, they have time with their family, they're great fathers, mothers, all of these things. They make space for all of these things and they have a well-rounded life. And I'm not saying that balance will be perfect all the time, but what I am saying is that they have just created a process in their own lives where there's order and space for everything. And I think even for us, we lost that order. It was like our family it wasn't like chaotic or anything, but it just wasn't at the forefront, you know, and work became at the forefront. And then I felt like our marriage was on the back burner and our family was on the back burner. And it wasn't until you and I came together and we were like, no, things are out of whack.
Some long conversations.
We had to have some long conversations and be like, okay, things are out of whack. We've taken so much into our hands. I don't believe God is pleased with this. Let's set things back in order in their rightful place. And I feel like we feel so much better physically, mentally, emotionally. You've had time to start going back to the gym again.
Yeah, it feels great.
I have been spending so much time with the kids, spending time with you. Yeah. And I think something really practical that I think really helped us was doing something we've never done before. We actually created a schedule where we said on a Monday morning, and it was even hard for me to even do that, but we created a schedule where we said on a Monday morning, we're actually going to start the week with our marriage. So Monday morning, we'll like get together and we'll spend time together. And then from that, after we spend time together, we'll go and like co-work or something, you know? But that was something that was even hard for me to do because I'm like, wait, I like having Mondays for work.
Right.
And I think you felt similarly, right?
Yeah. I mean, I still do. A little bit.
Exactly, you know, but I feel like even changing our schedule in that way is us building into the fabric of our family that, no, this comes first and our beliefs will have to catch up.
I mean, so I think what you're pointing to is something that goes along with the idea of not striving, which is prioritizing.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're striving, especially when it comes to careers or success, whatever it might be, I think that means that you don't have your priorities aligned.
Yeah, that's so good.
And so those two things usually will work in tandem, right? So if you're striving, then priorities are out of whack. And so you're putting one thing on top of everything else when that's not the proper order. Right. It's not the biblical order. Right. And so like along with not striving is reprioritizing and making sure the things that are number one, you know, the things that's number two should be in their correct places.
Right.
You know, God, marriage, family, work.
So good. You know? And I was talking with my friend the other day and she actually said, she was like, when you put things in their rightful place, you're actually telling God, hey, God, you can bless me now. Because she was saying that if he blesses you and things are so out of whack and out of order, it's like he's rewarding a system that he never put in place. And when we have things in their rightful place, it makes God smile and he's like, okay, I can bless this now. Because he doesn't want to reinforce these negative beliefs of strive, run yourself into the ground, don't sleep, I'm going to keep blessing you. It's like, no, you know, that's not how God operates. He wants us to move at a good pace, move at the pace of grace. Spend time with our family, spend time in our marriage and still have time for work. We're not even demonizing work. We're very hard workers, you know?
Yeah.
But
I think it's just a mindset. It's how you approach your work.
Yes.
And just how you approach your life. And even something that came to mind while you were talking was in the creation story, something that we don't see or that's not mentioned in the text is God struggling. The creator of the universe formed planets. Formed the earth, formed the oceans, fish, animals, human beings, like everything that we see in front of us, right? He created, and there's no mention of him struggling or it being complicated. And I think that goes to show that when you operate from a place of like wisdom and leverage, the things that you're going for do not have to be complicated. Which is like, I think also, I don't think this is something everybody believes, but that maybe it's kind of shown in our society is that in order to get to the next level, you got to grind. Yeah. You got to work hard. You got to strive, sweat, blood, tears, like put your feet to the ground. Like you just got to grind. And especially I feel like for men, is what was pushed on me, I will
Yeah.
say. And so knowing that, hey, if God gives us the gift of wisdom, then we will have the ability to create strategy
Yeah, so good.
that doesn't require us to bleed and to use every single ounce of force that we have to produce a result. Like
That's good.
results can be produced much easier with leverage than manpower,
So good.
And so it's like, if we tap into that, if we take the time to plan more, to strategize more, and to align ourselves more properly with the one who's created everything, then all of our work will not be in toil, right? We won't be toiling, and it won't be in vain. Our toil won't be in vain because we'll be aligned with God's plan.
I'm so glad that you touched on that. That's so good, because something that the Lord specifically revealed to me through scripture was Ecclesiastes 10:10. I'll read it. This is the Amplified Bible. I don't usually read the Amplified Bible, but it was the first thing that came up.
Yeah.
It says, if the axe is dull and he does not sharpen its edge,
There you go.
then he must exert more strength. But wisdom to sharpen the axe helps him succeed with less effort. And this really spoke to me, because I felt like when we put everything in order, I was starting to feel like, oh my gosh, God, I feel like I actually have less time for work. And it was really jarring for me, because I was like, no, I just feel like I should still be working so much more, and I have less time for work and more time for the family.
Time is not the only factor in progress.
It's not. Time isn't the only factor in success. And I really believe what the Lord was saying to me is, no, ask me for the wisdom so that I can sharpen your axe. And in every single area in your life, if your axe is sharp, then best believe you will see so much more success with less effort. And I really believe that was the wisdom of the Lord coming to me that day, because I was like homeschooling Shiloh. I thought I would end up having time for work. And then that whole week, I just felt like what ended up happening, there was no time for work. But I knew that I was doing the right thing for the season that I was in. And I just felt like that wisdom was so good for my heart, and just so the rewiring that I needed, because the world tells you you need to work, you need to grind, you need to run yourself into the ground. But God is like, no, that's not true. Sharpen your axe. I'll give you the strategy so that you can see so much more fruit with less effort.
All right. Yeah. So that's an amazing point that you're bringing up. I think there's one more scripture that we had, and we can really wrap it up there. That's a lot. So you had already mentioned Ecclesiastes 3 also, chapter 3, just starting at verse 1, being there's a time for everything. So for everything, there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, so on and so forth. There's a time for everything, right?
Yeah.
And I think like all this is just to say, like, make sure in every phase of life, just every moment, you understand what season you're in. Because I think there are some seasons where you're going to be pouring into your family more. There's some seasons where you might be more focused on vision and producing a result or birthing something that God has given you, right? Sometimes you may be a little bit more focused on ministry. Sometimes it's just like every single season, there's going to be something different. There's going to be a different focus. And so I think just making sure you know what season you're in is of utmost importance so that you're aligned.
So good. That's so good, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This was such a great podcast.
It was.
Usually we ask each other why the other person's a muse, but honestly, we don't have time for that because somebody needs a light. So we'll get into it.
We're going to wrap it up. Yeah, we'll call it a day.
All right.
Peace
bye,
out, y'all.
guys.
Have a good day.